Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have one quick administrative announcement before we hand it over to our speakers to kick off this session. This session has been pre-qualified to support continuing education requirements for several cybersecurity certifications. If you are a member seeking attendance documentation, please be sure to scan your badge at the scanner located in the back of the seating area at the conclusion of this session. Scanners shut off 15 minutes post-session, so please get your badge scanned before networking with the speakers. Also note that to qualify for CEUs and CPEs, the session must run a full 60 minutes. That 60 minutes can include Q&A, so please have questions ready for the speaker to fill in the time requirement. Full details on continuing education programs are available in the TechNet Cyber app and the conference website. Thank you, and now over to our speakers.
Okay, so continuing education. So we have to do a good job here. This has have to be really educational.
We got to inspire them.
I think
yes.
we can fill an hour, though.
You think we can fill an hour, no questions needed?
I think we'll be
Okay. How many people sat in the Miss Arrington session, right? And yeah. So if you missed it, she is like a force of nature, right? Really inspiring, and that's really her superpower is also, you saw if you attended how much she cares about their team and the people she works with, and so she's an inspiring person to work for. But also I felt a little set up too, so if you're all coming here to talk about Swift, then maybe we'll touch on some of that. But so we're here to talk about the software modernization implementation plan. So this has been a fairly long journey for me. My boss just said that if you've been a civil servant, I think, for 5 years, it'd go on and do something else, I think. So I've been here way too long. What started as a sort of revolutionary idea amongst a few of us back in 2017, and then evolved into the first software mod strategy, and then with the deputy secretary saying, "Okay, I'll sign off on this strategy, but you have 30 days to give me an implementation plan," which led to the first version, and we didn't know exactly where we'd be on that first version of that implementation plan. Now, I am happy to state that we did close out at least 2/3 of those activities. We learned for a small portion, we learned that we didn't know enough on a couple of those activities, so we dropped them. And then some of them we were maybe over-aggressive, or they evolved, right? We didn't I'll say from an Agile perspective, we didn't have the user story exactly right, so some of these stories have continued into the implementation phase plan 2. I also apologize, given how fast everything's been moving in the offices for all of us recently, we don't have a slide presentation. I do have one hard copy. Whoever gets the best question, well, okay, we got two. The
It's
two best questions
online, don't worry.
can have 2 copies of this. We have released a publicly releasable version of the plan. The only thing stripped out is, I think there's some dates and there are some responsibilities, like who's the OPR and OCR. I think we stripped that out, but other than that, this is the plan. What's been fun is we've automated it, so we do track all of this in a Jira Confluence, because we're all software people at the end, so we are using all the software tools, not just develop systems, but to manage this plan. So there were a lot of activities that's represented in this plan. We will not have time to go through all of them. I really wanted to have I tried almost over lunchtime to code it, a little like spinny wheel, and we'll pick the topic and we'll address that. We'll figure it out somewhere along the lines. But so I'm Rob Vietmeyer, Chief Software Officer for the department, and I'm really excited about where we are in this transition, and I'm really happy to have 2 of the top people that are driving this and real leaders across the department and that helped us put this plan together. are responsible for this implementation and have far more responsibility because they're in the MilDeps to actually deliver on this than I do. So with that, to challenge you guys, so Lauren, Ben, will you introduce yourself briefly and then just give your perspective on where we are in this journey as we're transitioning from, the first implementation plan to now this second phase?
Oh, easy. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Lauren Pavlik from the Army CIO's office. I run the software response team, known as Team Phoenix, or the SMART team, depending on where you read it, depending on when it got renamed. So there's a lot of really cool things happening right now, so no pressure, Ben, on where we are in the journey here. But I get to see all sorts of projects across the Army. We typically are supporting ACOMs, ASCs, and DRUs with the Army directive. However, we have been also supporting programs of record as of recently, just various ones that legacy systems are going in that are maybe at an ACOM right now. And so where we get to see all the pockets of sunshine that come with software modernization and all the little pockets of gold that are happening. And so it fits into each one of these little tasks. We have all the tasks up here in the plan. And so we get to see the evolution. Even from a year and a half ago when I started this role, we've seen it take off to the point where our projects were pretty short, sweet, and simple in the beginning, where now they're quite complex and they're super fun. And we're seeing people really raise their hand to say, we want in on this. We just don't know how. Can you help us? Which I think is a really different place for defense in general that I'm seeing across the Army. I'm hearing about it from my counterparts at Air Force and Navy. And we're here for it. This is a great place to be. We're taking off in this space, and we're finding new ways and new tools and new things to help us get there. So I'm very, very encouraged in this space, and the implementation plan just helps us get there.
So wait, hold on. Isn't Phoenix Project already taken?
It
is this intellectual property theft here?
It's constantly asked. You are correct. You are correct. There are so many versions of Team Phoenix, Project Phoenix, all sorts of things. But so yes, you are correct. But
for those who don't know, there's a book out there. It's kind of the Bible for software modernization.
True.
Project
True.
Phoenix.
Yep. It might be on my nightstand. I won't. I do enjoy reading that book. But anyway, turn over to you.
Yes. So So Ben Homer. I lead the software modernization efforts for the Department of the Air Force. So I sit in the Office of the CIO, which is the CIO for the Air Force and the Space Force, so representing both services. So I started at Kessel Run about 5 years ago, so I'm actually at that cusp moment of maybe I need to go and do something else, but I've actually been in the Office of the CIO for the last 2. So I had the experience of starting within the department, working in a software factory, one of the first, maybe the first software factory, and saw that, the difference that makes, but also came into it from a experience of working within industry where we just went fast. I worked for startups. And so also saw some of the challenges that we faced within the department, more from the side of how do we integrate with the broader enterprise? What are the data standards that we should be building towards so that we can make sure that we are aligning with the future enterprise? And I came to the CIO office because I was really interested in how do we start to look at that from an enterprise approach so that we are providing better clarity not only to organizations like Kessel Run, but also to industry on how do we align the enterprise to provide enterprise services, but then also enable those operators at the edge for what we're doing. And so that's what we're trying to do within the department. I think the cool thing is when I came in 2017, there was sort of a kind of very frenetic pace of activity around software factories. I think in the last 3-4 years we've done, especially since 2020, when there was a number of things going on to integrate from an acquisition perspective. We stood up Platform One, we stood up Cloud One. We now have a set of pretty mature enterprise services, which we're beginning to, much more quickly move the enterprise towards. And so, Ms. Goodwine, one of her, number one thing on her CIO strategy when she came into office, carried over from the previous CIO as well, was accelerate cloud adoption. And so that acceleration is a challenge, and that's been one of the things we've seen. And so there's a couple things, and all the things that Rob has talked about and that Laura's working on from the Army side, we are also facing. But the cool thing is we're aligned as an enterprise, not only with DoD CIO, but also with the MilDep counterparts. And so I'm really excited, honestly, mostly for that, for us to be able to share these lessons learned and actually really scale the stuff that we're doing, because we haven't, this is the time to do it. And honestly, having been in that room, I'm very excited that the leadership is pushing that, and that software is getting talked about so much, because this is the time to do it, and we don't really have a choice. So, over there.
Yeah, thanks. So is it true that for efficiency that it's going to be no longer Air Force, it's going to be Army Air Corps? Are we back to that? Is that?
I'm not going to touch that.
So just setting a little bit of context too, because I think that one of the, and I'll get your opinions on this, right? So one of the things I constantly hear is, oh, you're just talking about software. Software is not us, that's something else. And I think that when we came up with this, we were sort of in the mindset of we live in a software-defined world, and so really this software piece was really driving this broader modernization picture. We weren't just talking about custom development pieces. We were talking about weapon systems, our business systems, all of our functions that need to go into modernization. And we saw the linchpin was our ability to manage those configuration files, that software that made the weapon system do what the weapon system would do, right? Integrated the intelligence, would accelerate our business systems, right? Do you guys see the same thing within the military departments? I mean, how does software sell when you guys approach it?
I think to carry on with what Katie had said previously about it being like things that we can't touch or see or taste, right? But it's something that we know it's in our phones. It's there, but it's really an enablement tool. So how are we enabling folks to the way that they're doing it in their personal lives so that they can do it regardless of environment, whether they're disconnected in the field, they have all the enablement that they need. We were talking about the Azure stacks and the AWS outposts and different things for the field earlier. Those types of things on how to go from business system to war fighting is pretty neat. And there's so much capability, and software is just there to make it happen and to bring the information to the edge. So go for it.
I mean, software is how we go fast. And I think part of the thing that I saw from working for a weapon system was that a lot of the way that we have built these things in the past is not designed to go as fast as we have to go. And software changed that for Kessel Run. But it's been it's honestly admittedly challenging, because there's a lot of systems that we have to connect up, and these are mission critical things. And so the balance is, how do you enable those weapon systems to go fast while keeping to their mission requirements and not breaking anything in the middle? And it's not an easy thing to do, but I think that starts with providing more of those capabilities that they can consume and plug into, and providing those standards that they can connect up to in a much more transparent way, so that everyone isn't just building these things in parallel silos, that we're all working towards the same thing. And I think we're moving very quickly in that direction, but there's still more work to be done there.
Yeah, the consolidation effort. Yeah.
Can people in the back hear? Do we need to move the mics forward? Okay. So beforehand, we met here this morning when everybody come in around lunchtime, and we had this conversation, and we were like, we should have just hit record, and we could have played it back for you guys. But one of the things that came up was like, well, I'm not sure what my cloud story is, right? So I'm going to go right there first, right? Because goal one for the software modernization has been to accelerate our journey to the cloud. And I think that when we brought cloud in, one of the things that we had learned is that technology by itself was not going to drive modernization, but we still needed to drive this whole sort of cloud native type of modernization approach. We needed to build modern platforms on which to deliver next generation systems, and the flexibility that the cloud approach brought us was absolutely essential. So in the new iPlan, those activities continue. We have obviously achieved JWCC. I think the number right now is $2.7 billion of business being done on that contract, and it continuing to grow. We have also realized some of the challenges, right? That vehicle was suboptimal. So I want to give Lauren and the Army some credit for kicking us a couple times and give credit.
Helping.
Kicking. And give DISA team a credit for responding with some contract mods. And we're continuing that conversation. So if that contract vehicle hasn't made sense for you, to folks that aren't tracking the story, the Army came in and said, listen, we're willing to move $1 billion of business on. However, the current structure makes it suboptimal for large buys because we're competing each individual task order or the whole bit. So how do we how can we modify that vehicle, update that vehicle to make it better for large purchases? And so thanks to the Army team, we made those modifications. The Air Force is now taking advantage of that. And so you'll see that thought process happen, continuing to evolve in this in the implementation plan. We're trying to build that next generation cloud infrastructure and extend it, not just looking at JWCC, but we're also looking at how do we extend for small business cloud providers. What do those extensions look like? So those tasks are in this plan. Looking at how we've moved now from the current mainly implemented in continental United States model, and how do we start to move out to the edge? So there are tasks in there building off of work that's already happening in Army, Navy, and with DISA, as we're starting to extend to edge cloud capabilities and with our Joe Cloud, with our tactical edge types of capabilities, and then trying to link those. We have some of those infrastructures. We've seen that one of the challenges is now moving to a mesh type of architecture, so we can identify where computing infrastructure exists and and allow the warfighters to take advantage, even if it's not a node that say is an Army node. It might be a Navy node, or it might be a DISA node. Like, how do we start to build the ability for applications and data to scale across that infrastructure in a highly resilient way? So there's work here that also ties into work that's with our network modernization activities, where we're trying to synchronize cloud endpoints globally into an integrated fabric and have them as core resident with networking capabilities. So provide these platform types of capabilities to the applications that need high resilience, high performance, high security sorts of things. Another one we're looking at is on the SaaS side. So there's, I think, 100 new SaaS services every day. And that makes it a challenge. So we're looking at that piece. And I know, so Lauren, you want to talk about SaaS and what Leo kicked us again on
helping
on SIPRnet.
Helping.
Okay. Helping.
We're helping you.
Yeah.
We're collaborating.
Yeah.
Like we always do. Yeah. So do you want me to talk about?
Well, so the problem was, right, is that we're finding operating on SIPRnet requires a lot of significant government investment. And what Leo is doing is he was bringing over a particular set of SaaS services, excuse me, but was saying, hey, this isn't just for the Army. Like, so how are we going to approach this as an enterprise, right? So that Army's not footing the whole bill for the expense of establishing these SaaS services on the classified networks. How do we build out some of those pieces?
Right, but the demand is large, right, across, and as we're seeing and as we're modernizing into those types of platforms and having the easeability of SaaS and having that, hopefully that will really enable us even further to have more tools at our fingertips to say, hey, you still have a very valid requirement, but the weight of your older system is not worth the squeeze. There's these opportunities here to go and check out to see if this will fit. So that's really the collaboration that we've been working towards.
Trying to work together.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you see those activities. So Ben, what's your take on the cloud and any of the Air Force priorities?
So back to the kind of maturity, I think, Cloud One was stood up a number of years ago, kind of around the time as a lot of the software factories It's now in a much more mature and scalable place. We've done a lot of work to standardize the baseline. Getting to what you're talking about, I think the next step is really just to mature that enterprise platform stack on every classification level so that you can develop one class, but then you can push it to any production environment. And so I think that's really a lot of what we need to do next is to standardize those environments, standardize how we are, that path to production from development on class using DevSecOps and then pushing it up to, IL 4, 5, 6 or above in whatever environment you need to do that for production. Along with the other side of it we haven't really talked about is the data tagging and standardization of that. So there's a lot of work within the DAF CDAO, which falls under the CIO office as well, to do a lot of that prep work to provide that data on-demand solution so that we have all of our data standards set up from day one. So when you onboard to the cloud, you're doing a lot of that heavy lifting to build your application so that it can do the modern things that we need it to do.
Anything else?
Just the only other piece with the SaaS element was the level of effort, the level of interest and demand for low-code, no-code is a really big press right now in the Army, and I'm here for it. It's easy, it allows citizen development, and allows organizations that may not necessarily be, they have them be enabled by software for solutions that, like instead of saying, hey, go to pen to paper, well, hey, you've got these low-code, no-code solutions up there, and there's a big press for that as we decrease our legacy footprint, and I think it's going to be great because it's an easy way. A couple days, the security boundaries are already there, security by design, yep. as Ms. Arrington was saying earlier, and I think it's just a really nice way to capitalize on technology that we've already put our ATOs on.
Citizen coders and soldier coders.
You never know,
in the
right?
foxhole, right?
So many things.
We have to.
Yeah, we'll just give them the tools in order to do it.
So Ben, you had concerns about no code, low code. See,
all right, let's make some controversy.
Yes, we had
here's my thing. Low code, no code is good for certain use cases. I think there's two things that I see that I just from a larger technology perspective that makes me think that from a prioritization standpoint we need to think about where it fits in. So number one, I think AI is going to kill low code, no code. I think AI is going to make it easier to develop the applications that you need in a better and more efficient way and to change those applications as you need them. One of the challenges that I see with low-code, no-code is when you build those applications, you still need someone to own it, and so it's still taking time away from someone to do that. And if that person leaves, often that person is the only person that's maintaining that thing, and it's a little bit challenging. So I think there's for a specific use case where you've got applications where you need an interim solution, you've got someone that it's going to help and save time and improve productivity, that's great. But I see it as more of a stopgap to, between getting that and the fully baked solution that you need, because if you're building using DevSecOps and you're pushing updates every week or other week, you are not going to be in a cycle where you need to be able to do these things where we're hacking stuff together. Or where you're doing the low-code, no-code is going to be for a very specific, development use case where, hey, we need to do something, stand it up fast. There's places where I think that makes sense. But I think when we look at the major, the significant spending that we are spending money on, I don't really want to replace a major application that has a lot of complexity with a low-code or multiple low-code, no-code solutions that are not really going to get us to where we need to be long-term. So.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation. But yeah, there's a lot of themes that we're seeing across the legacy systems to help modernize. So I think it's
But I think
great.
we all agreed on,
Yes.
as that market plays out with no-code, low-code sorts of solutions, AI, having that common platform that allows us to take advantage of these technologies and evolve them. I think we all have agreement on how do we building that out.
Well, and I'll even go one step further. I think there is really value in making sure that the enterprise, that we are not stepping on solutions that are solving people's problems. So to the extent that these tools can be used and are effective, I don't think we want to say anything about that. And in fact, where they're really successful, we need to scale those and take advantage of it. But so I think my distinction is really more from what is the long-term vision of how we want to build the future, enterprise of the future. I think there's places where it fits in and others where it doesn't.
So you can see a couple of areas where we're still working on fleshing out how do these things work. So no code, low code, Years ago, we wanted to have a reference design for how to do that. We still do not have one, so if anyone is implementing those types of solutions in the department, we want to hear from you to see how we can promote those types of solutions. We had the conversation on AI. There are threads in the implementation plan for AI. We've started already on working on an overall architecture for incorporating AI into the DevSecOps pipeline, where AI plays and sorts of and other sorts of considerations. Creating at least right now a top-level framework. I know, Lauren, the Army's been doing some work on AI, right?
We have been doing a lot with AI. We've also been doing a lot with the DevSecOps tooling and the enterprise and consolidating what we're delivering for the DevSecOps tooling as well. So that goes after the second goal that you've got.
I know, but
it
was just thread.
So it's right there. I know. Well, we just turned in
too easy.
One of our projects around AI. So I will leave that for Mr. Garciga to run wild with because we're still fleshing that out. So, but it's really exciting. We just finished that up, so that's pretty neat. But the DevSecOps tooling we just evaluated as well for our enterprise solutions, and in concert with our pipeline platform and CATO certifications and our process for that. We also just got our DevSecOps review board established and our charter signed, so that was really exciting as well. So now we're really starting to go through and do our deep dives and our maturity models for DSO across our platforms as well. So lots of tools. So between the AI tooling, the DevSecOps tooling, really to enable this across the board, low-code, no-code tooling, and I mean, having all that ready to go so that we can have rapid software delivery is key right now, and it's just a fun place to be, I won't lie.
And Ben?
I'm ready for us to blow up the ATO.
We've blown up the script already, folks, so it's like...
No. So, I mean, so the cool thing is we have, Platform One is in such a more mature place. We talked about Cloud One in a much more mature place than they were. And so now is the time where we are going to be able, and I'm really excited that we're pushing this ATO and pushing software these days, because we're in a position now where leadership is on board for making the changes that we need to move fast and putting the resources in place to do that. And so that's what's next. Is I'm very excited to be able to start to say, as we onboard platform, applications to Platform One, that they are getting deployed in production and getting their ATO within weeks rather than months or years. And that's what we have to be doing.
Okay, so I think we made the transition, right? So we started with cloud. The second goal for the strategy is building out the software factory ecosystem. And because of the discussion we were having earlier, and you brought up CATO first. And
I love it. It's so great.
The blowing up RMF discussion, right? Right? So we'll come back to the software factory ecosystem a little bit, but in the implementation plan, we definitely have the continuation of the continuous authority to operate. And we have established in the first go-round, we established the framework for what this looks like, how we would evaluate programs against it. We are continuing those tasks because while we establish the framework, I would say we don't have a lot of programs yet that are actually implementing these processes. And with Ms. Arrington here and her challenge for us to adopt the culture of cyber, I think that's part of that culture change is what we're facing with. And so where Army and Air Force, where are we on this CATO journey? Because I've been waiting for packages for both you guys, I mean, I have not, I keep hearing promises. For a year I've been hearing promises. I don't have them yet.
I am on a call every week with our team with Platform One, which is also talking very closely with the DoD CISO. We know what needs to happen, but it comes down to that same thing. There are a lot of things that we are still being asked to do to meet those cybersecurity requirements. And those things are not simple, and they, to be honest, have changed in a number of times. So, for example, one of the big ones that came in recently was supply chain risk management. So there's a lot of things we need to do there. There's a lot of things we get to post-quantum encryption. There's controls now for those. And so the trick is to get to a level of security where we feel good about what comes next, where we have the POEM for those additional controls that we're going to do. That's kind of where we're at. If we can help to move that faster, we're here for it. But there has been that's basically it. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and then there's also, frankly, dependencies between Cloud One and Platform One, which as we go to Rev 5 of cybersecurity controls, there's a lot of things that are complex to add into this mix. And so I think the trick is if we want to go faster, let's prioritize those things that we care about the most, and then take the rest of the things in POEM, and we'll figure out how do we get there, and that probably will help us to do what you're saying.
So we've developed our software standards from the DSO memos of our platform pipeline and CIO certifications. So within those policies, we've extracted those out, put them into an intake app, because of course we're bottom line, we're software people. We put it into an app. And so that way we can take the policy, we can validate every piece along the way, and we can actually say, okay, so show us where you're doing your cyber defense. Show us where you do your continuous monitoring and all the pieces in between. Where's your dashboard? Where's this? Where's that? And they can show us live, like where they're doing all of their implementation, which is really neat. And so you will see those shortly.
Okay.
After they go through our DSO board.
Someone document that. Can you get that in the press? I don't know what shortly means. It seems like there's some wiggle room there.
Well,
but
we didn't put a time on shortly. It can be defined by various things. Shortly, we'll have that to you.
So I think one of the, I'm a firm believer in the CATO process. I think it's fundamental to the discussions we're having around ATO, RMF reform, blowing up RMF. I think the culture change is hard. I think that and Ben, you mentioned POEMs, and that sounds like paper to me, right? And how this movement to real-time cyber posture awareness. There is new tools all on the floor around us that can help in bringing that visibility, but how we make that transition from workforce and processes that have always worked one way, and how do we change that, right? And so when we envision CATO, I think there are a couple pieces of it. One, this whole notion of platforms where we have teams that can provide inheritable controls. So I have a cloud team, I have an enterprise services team, and then the applications can sit on top, and they inherit 75% of the controls needed, so it becomes a lot less cumbersome. And Ben, you were mentioning your platform and enterprise service approach. Are you guys looking at how do you build?
Yeah, we already do that. So I would say a couple things. Back to the maturity part of it, we are fairly mature, so that when you go on to Cloud One or Platform One, you can pretty quickly inherit a number of those controls. So that there is that part of it which speeds it up. And I think actually the culture part, in a lot of ways, I think we're there from a just everyone agrees we want to be able to do these things faster. The trick is, what is we get into the hard requirements of how to, what are the things that we really are worried about, and what are those tools going to be? And so I think, what was the question again?
On the enterprise services and building out shared platforms.
So I guess that inheritance thing, that's what that's provided. Is that when you go onto Platform One, you can do a lot of things and get up to speed very quickly, and then frankly, because a lot of that work of setting up, hey, this is how you're going to build your initial, packages and set them up. A lot of that, you've got controls that come in within here. Iron Bank also has a lot of packages you can get that already have a lot of these security controls baked in. And so then once you do that, you don't really need to go and start from scratch and build something end to end. You can basically build with the existing components we have, and then you just have to do a few other things to make sure they're meeting those additional checks, and you're good.
So the other piece, and how far have people made it, was that, so everybody says CI/CD. Raise your hand if you know what that means. CI/CD, a few people, continuous integration, continuous delivery, right? Well, we see, Lisa, I see a lot of CI. If CD means continuous delivery, means every decision to get to yes to deploy is in the pipeline, we don't see a lot of that, right? Because that means the AO has to have their SCAs and ISMs and their controls all embedded as control gates or automated checks, continuous monitoring built into the pipeline. Are you guys seeing that merger when you're looking at your CATO programs, that there is this tight engagement between the CI developer teams and then the AOs and the SCAs? Is that starting to happen?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's part of the security pipelines that are baked in. Yeah, I mean, for sure. That was how we worked at Kessel Run. That's pretty much how Platform One is working. Yeah. The only difference is back to the baselining of the standards and how we're building it. So that when you build in an unclassed environment, you push up to a production environment. That needs to be the same as well. Because if you don't, then you're having to go and do a bunch of different things to change it and meet that other thing. But other than that, no. I mean, I think that's number one. And then the other cool thing is back to the companies in this room. The more that we can get more technologies into those pipelines and get those accredited and in there to be taking advantage of the latest technology, the better we're going to be. Because that's going to, once we have that CATO and once you're pushing your, releases, it's going to be checking, and then you put new things in the security pipeline, and you don't have to do anything else. You're just getting better security. And so, that's where we need to be. Once that's where we're going.
So we're learning a lot in our what all of our validation checks for the maturity model, ones as they're coming in, we have roughly 10 candidates right now that have come forward saying, yes, please evaluate us, right? We only have 3 right now that are ready to go, to go through, right? So we've already sent some back, because what it was really interesting was that it allowed it to illuminate a couple different areas of automation and opportunities for enhancement that we weren't necessarily expecting. So that was one of our lessons learned that I thought was one of my most favorite things of how we can keep maximizing our environments and say hey, you've got all these pieces, but in order to get to an 80% maturity, you still need to do these 4 things. Please go back and do them, come back and see us, show us that you can do it, and then you're there. And that is how I think we're taking that extra step to go from the CI and then to add in that delivery. Are you really delivering every 2 weeks? Are you really putting all those pieces in? Because that's what we want to see. We want to see that continue, pumping out that software all the time, right? Yeah. So some areas where we thought they were definitely right there, they were close but not quite there, and we were able to help them take that next step forward. So I was pretty proud of that. Just
to add on that, one of the things about this strategy and some of the things we're doing as we mature these processes is getting at that. You're right. You have once you go into a platform that's a DevSecOps platform, does not mean you're doing DevSecOps. You still need to be releasing and making changes on a regular basis, and and making sure that your code is not stale and doing all these things. I think the metrics part of this is one of the things that I'm really looking forward to having as a result of this, so that we can actually, and it's fun that we're playing this game of hey, who's going to get the first CATO? But also, I think who is pushing the most releases and the most updates of any of the services is going to be a fun metric to compete against.
Challenge accepted.
There you go. Well, I have some additional metrics to measure this behavior that I'm sharing with Mr. McEwen and Ms. Arrington. So stand by for some of those metrics. So we skipped over a little bit of the software factory to get into I think the hot topic everyone has been interested in is where we're going with some of the CATO and RMF controls and that automation journey. That is all represented. Those activities are represented here in the iPlan as well. But the software factory. So shameless plug. We are. Where's George? Where's George? George is in the back. He failed. We have a state of DevSecOps report that we were hoping to get out just prior to this. Did anyone see the presentation earlier today on state of DevSecOps? Okay, several of you. Worth checking out. It should be up on this week? Tomorrow? Tomorrow. Okay, on the CIO website, we are... it's unfortunate. We're waiting for Ms. Arrington's signature on it, which is the last piece, and then she walked away. But we will get it up on the website. It's a really interesting report that sort of lays down where we see the software factory activities at this point in time. So We had a debate, right, on before this on what is a software factory. Can you,
I'm always the one starting the debate. I think it's become clear at this point. So here's the thing. So actually, I know there's a lot of good work done to create a definition of software factory. But actually, let's start before that. Software factory, to me, personal opinion, not the opinion of DoD or the Air Force, weird term. No one outside the Department of Defense ever used the term software factory. It's like this weird mesh of technology, but a factory. It doesn't make any sense. And so what we're really talking about, I think the definition that you guys actually we got to was a good one, which is a collection of people, tools, and services to develop software.
And then I think it's the official one is people doing cool shit with software.
That's actually better. But the point is not all software factories are created equal. It just says, hey, you're using software and probably DevSecOps and you're doing it as a team. But it doesn't you could just be one 4-person team sitting in a unit that knows how to code, or you could be Kessel Run, which is the AOC weapon system with 1,200 people. And we didn't really make that distinction when we say software factory. So where we're going within the Department of the Air Force is really much more standardizing around those core enterprise services. So what is an enterprise platform for DevSecOps, which, that's platform one. We also then have other platforms which are potentially could be used by the enterprise and are being used by the enterprise, both within the software engineering teams that we have, the SWEGs, as well as the weapon systems in other places. And so where we need to go is basically modernizing and maturing those platforms and standardizing across them. So you have your enterprise platform that you can build on. You have your other platforms that are going to be a little bit more mission specific potentially. And then you've got developers that are building on those rather than saying, well, I'm going to stand up a software factory, build my own platform and pipelines. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
So we have a lot of software activities happening.
Right.
And
they don't use the term software factory. It's probably smart.
So we like to be, we're including everybody on the different software activities that go on. We do have one that is labeled as the Army Software Factory down in Austin, and then there are several other different types of software engineering centers that were established before that. So we include them in the definition because they fit all of the definition pieces of that. So they're all part of our software ecosystem to deliver capability to the soldier. But yeah, it is a constant, discussion.
Yeah. And so my challenge, because I see our SEI team here that's helping us on the next State of DevSecOps report. So to you guys, here's the metric I want to see. We didn't get it in this one, but of our weapon systems, of our IT systems, how many of those are delivering using modern practices, and what's their delivery rate? Right? That's what I want to see in the next one, because so my assertion, people have been asking, what's the right number of software factories? I don't know, but it's more than what we have, because if you look at most of our systems, we're measuring deliveries on 9 to 18 months, right? And that's the wrong metric. So I want to switch the metric to counting software factories to how many of our systems are actually deployed and operated and maintained using modern practices, and we're making updates in hours, days, weeks, maybe, rather than 18 months. Right? You guys up for that challenge? Can we do it for the next one?
Yes. I think it kind of goes along with one of the other conversations about going towards enterprise type services, and then having more of looking at software to have quality software, not quantity of software. Because if we have something doing the same thing 5 different ways, it's not going to be the highest quality on each one, right? They're all going to have their own little piece of it that's great, but how do we condense them, bring them together, collaborate, and make a really high quality enterprise version of whatever it is? So that would enable that piece.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go.
No, that's right.
No, you're not up for that challenge?
So back to software activity. So Shifty, one of the engineers, one of the leads of Platform One, has been pushing to me, and I'm kind of coming around to it, that every program really is basically a software factory, And so if you think about it, any weapon system should be operating as a software factory based on that definition that they're using DevSecOps and doing cool stuff.
I agree.
So, and so I guess to that point, it really comes down to, okay, we want everyone to be using DevSecOps unless you're like making something that's like a mechanical tool or something, you know. But then you should be using a common platform to do it. You should not be saying, I think the message that we don't want to give is, become a software factory, set up your own separate, unique pipeline and system that doesn't interoperate with everyone else, because that's how we built it in the past. So what we need to say is, if we want to make it the definition we want, a software factory, software activity, whatever we want to call it, is someone that uses a common platform and common standards to build towards a common enterprise solution that's interoperable.
Okay. And I think I'm going to open it up for questions, right? Yeah. I think we have about 15 minutes left. And so if we'll keep going, because there are, I think every one of those activities in the implementation plan, which is available right now, you can download it, could have a whole conference for themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So we will keep going unless there's...
I'm having fun. So.
Yeah, I know. There's questions from the audience. Anyone willing? Okay.
So my name is Jim Moore. I'm the Army representative for my company. And Lauren, I was kind of curious about the projects that you talked about that are quite complex. Could you give like some examples of what kind of things y'all are building?
Oh, so for Team Phoenix, when we get a critical project, so it can range, right? So it could be anything that's like one of the ones that we're helping right now is the Global Force tool for GFEM, right? Is one of there's 11 legacy systems that go into that, right? And so there's pockets of each one that you're going to want to take the capability and bring it into the new program of record and what that looks like and what that software architecture looks like, and then how to bridge all 11 together. That's just one example of the complexities. But it's really kind of an exciting time on that front, because then you can say, like, these are all the goodness of each one that we really want to continue on. We need to, collapse them, find commonalities that we can do once and not 11 times. And then also say that with this software architecture, this is going to be maintainable. It's easy to maintain. It makes the most sense, and it fits the bill for what they're trying to do. So that's how we're trying to really tackle our legacy footprint and really bring it all into modern practices today. And that's just one example of several, but we also have other ones that are 2 weeks long that we just need to go understand it, do a quick cost analysis. Does that make sense? Yes, thumbs up, they're doing good things, move on, right? It all depends on what we get our way. So we'll determine the level of complexity and also the level of complexity that Mr. Garcia wants us to go down. But that's also what keeps our job very fun all the time. So, but it's wide ranging, right? Because those are all either in ACOMs or in the G staff. But it all leads into a program of record that we get to go help and work with also awesome people in the acquisition community. So does that help explain what we do? Yeah. So we're Initiative 5 on the Army Software Directive, if that helps.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I'll say, so there's been talk of the software cadre as well from ANS, and I know Brady's not here, but we don't have an ANS rep up here. But on the process piece, we do have the software cadre efforts that he's similar to Phoenix, but broader, because it's cross DoD wide. They're trying to build some, quick hit teams to go help programs make this cultural transformation. Right?
Yeah. So,
hopefully you're talking to him so we can learn all the lessons from Phoenix.
Yes. Yeah. No, I don't think we've had a specific one on Phoenix. Well, we should.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
We can go have some fun on that one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Brendan.
Hey, Lauren. I was going to go back on this software factory concept and maybe an alternative view kind of concept of it. Is there a departure then from, is the goal of the software factories to generate software? Or is it also, because I think it kind of started, at least in the Army, with this more like ranger mentality of we're going to train people who will then go out into the force with this knowledge of how to do software more than it is about the actual generating software. Is that
so read the State of DevSecOps report, because what we found in the analysis is that there are 4 different categories, general categories of software factories, and you just identified one. So the Army Software Factory and the Marine Corps we're focused on education. What does the future force look like? And training those people up and then getting them back out into the field. That's not the only type. We also have weapon system factories that are actually responsible for delivering and operating the weapon systems, right, or the business systems, right. So there's, there's factories behind the F-16, the F-22 on the Air Force side, the Aegis cruisers, right. So there's software factories that get tied. Castle Run, right? Yours was a weapon system.
Yeah, well, and I think you make an important point though, which is that culture part of it. Like Kessel Run, that's one of the, I think, lasting legacies of Kessel Run, is that it really did bring in airmen and guardians and train them on how to actually do modern software. And those people went off, including me, to the Air Force CIO and other places, that's a renewable investment. And so I think there's real value in that. I think the point of it, though, is to say we want everyone to be building in this way, number one. And number two, you should. We need to figure out we didn't talk really about career field, which is part of this, but we really do need to be focusing on how do we make sure that as we have people that have those skill sets and want to stay in those careers, they have a career path within the department where they can be technical experts on DevSecOps, so that we have the technical expertise to make good decisions from about the standards and where we're going. So, I guess I don't really think I don't think there's that much of a shift. I think it's more just a maturity of the ecosystem that's changed.
So the other two types, just by the way, were the enterprise software factories. So the platform ones or delivering enterprise services. Those more general. A lot of these factories are producing pipelines to help others that then become the implementation. And the fourth kind was kind of interesting. Like the fourth type is innovation pipelines. So pipelines that exist outside the fence walls that sit typically in commercial spaces or makerspace type of deal that can be easy for non-traditional partners and small businesses to come in and demonstrate whether their capabilities are viable or not. And so one of those examples is Ski Camp. So Ski Camp was worked with some small businesses to get Kubernetes running on the F-16. As a cool example, right? They sit way outside in Ogden, Utah, way outside the baseline, and then there's a path within the Air Force to go from these innovation pipelines, things that are successful, to then jump over the fence into the classified development or more protected development environments. Kind of cool. Yeah, but 4 types. State of DevSecOps report. George promises it will be on our website tomorrow. CIO website, CIO library, State of DevSecOps report.
Awesome. Frank Cox, I'm a small business owner, core variants. With modernizing multiple legacy systems, as you mentioned, working with different contractors using different DevSecOps systems, how do you guarantee continuity in that continuous delivery model?
I can't really hear you. I'm sorry. Can you come closer?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So with modernizing multiple legacy systems, working with different contractors using different DevSecOps systems, how do you guarantee continuity in that continuous delivery model?
And legacy systems too. So we did have the conversation on
that.
Yeah.
I mean, so not all of they all have different contracts that are going on. Some of them are consolidated. It sort of depends on each one, right? For one of the examples, I have one of them is a mainframe system. That one has the same contractor, right? So that kind of makes it a little bit easier, but also we have all the source code from, I don't know, what was it, 50 years ago? They had a birthday party for it. I know, I wish that was not a joke. So yeah, it is a challenge, but at the same time, most legacy systems unfortunately aren't in a DevSecOps like continuous model. So it's actually like a opportunity for Harmony and also to show them how we can get them into a DevSecOps environment and show them what kind of rhythm and what agile means and how to go through. Like we do a lot of agile workshops on like, how do you set up a daily scrum and like how do you release every 2 weeks, and here are all the tools and platforms to do it, and things like this plan have really helped us get there, right? But a lot of the contractors will come together. They'll all work together because they all want to come together on that front and see where it goes, right, from the legacy systems. But it hasn't been too big of a challenge on that front because most of them aren't already in a DSO kind of environment. They're still stuck where they were because they just didn't know how to get out of it, right? They wouldn't be legacy if they knew how to. So that's where we come into play, help them get there, give them all the tools that they need, and move out.
Yeah, I'll say, just add, so it was a great question and one that we haven't answered well because we don't have a great track record yet of transitioning legacy systems, right? So
yes.
a lot of the software factory work you read about and get high publicity for is the weapon system side, and some of those guys jumped on it. We get a lot of negative press on how poorly we're doing with business systems. In the implementation plan, we recognize that, and we have some activities to try to go after that. It is a difficult challenge, and we have several efforts underway that are working with everything from AI approaches to other technologies to say, how do we get rid of this, what I call this huge boat anchor that is holding us back. I mean, if you look at the IT spend, how much goes into sustainment of legacy systems, some of which qualify for AARP membership, apparently.
Yeah.
It is a huge amount of our budget, and that prevents us from spending in these innovative ways. So we got to figure out how can we get rid of that boat anchor.
Right.
I had to throw a Navy analogy in because they're not here.
It may not be the same company either that was helping us with the legacy that would be helping us with the new, right? They may have totally different mission sets and what they would want to bid on. So, not to predict the acquisition side of it, right? But they may not be the same company.
But for anyone that has a solution, there's a lot of problems.
I mean,
it's
very system dependent. Kessel Run is an example of an approach that changed, but they changed because the weapon system was so failed because there's hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. They said, forget it, we're not giving you any more money. Take that $100 million, do something different with what's left. Yeah. And they did, and so I hope that's not how we need to do it in the future. But at the end of the day, each time it's going to come down to an acquisition decision, and those are hard decisions because those are hard, important systems. Yeah. So there's going to have to be a decision about, and I'm kind of excited about the approach that we're facing today, because if we're going to say, okay, well, we need to take a drastically different approach, I hope that makes us take some hard looks at some of these systems to really figure out those system-specific approaches to doing it. Because there's not a one-size-fits-all I can give you. Like, in a way, I'd love to say, oh yeah, everyone should just use Platform 1. But like, there's reasons that we've built these systems in these ways, and there's things that are super complex about them, and it's going to have to come down to really looking deeply and, frankly, just making some hard decisions, because it's not going to. We have to make some hard decisions. Is basically what's going to happen.
Okay, so I think we're about time. So 2 minutes. So in closing, right? And we didn't get to APIs. We spent about 20 minutes talking about APIs before the meeting. We had a great story for APIs.
We did.
You're going to have to come back tomorrow at the same time. And we'll continue with APIs. We only touched on a little bit of what's in this implementation plan. But for me, it's a journey. The journey continues. The journey I see with the new administration is going to accelerate, right? I think they're jumping on a lot of ideas that we've been working on, and they're grabbing them, right? So SecDef, one of his first actions, software pathway is the preferred acquisition approach. Memo comes out, right? That's been there, and people have been saying, no, that's not for me. That's for software, and I'm not software. I'm something else. And no, this is, back to that confusion, right? So I'm kind of excited about, and also, feeling a little bit overwhelmed, like, oh my God, how are we going to move at this speed? But we've been telling everybody else they need to move faster. I think we're being challenged to move faster ourselves. So closing remarks, what do you guys think?
Well, just one thing, because we didn't talk about APIs. So what I'm really excited about is
20 minutes, guys. Sorry, it's going to be over.
We're going to consolidate.
no, this is going to be fast. So back to how do we go fast and how does the enterprise help? So we sit at the Pentagon. It's weird to be at the Pentagon compared to when you're working for a weapon system where you're somewhere actually much more directly involved in a mission. And so what I think we need to do is get much closer to back to the end users. And so through APIs, we're going through a process of having a number of technical exchange meetings with actual application owners to walk through end to end what that process looks like. I think that's a similar thing that we're doing with DevSecOps to really make sure we're understanding what are the problems with people, accelerating. How do they, where are they getting stuck in their migration journey or in their journey trying to get a CATO? And so that connection of the enterprise and the acquisition and the operations, I think, needs to come much more together, and that's my approach for the next couple of years at least.
Yeah. So I love my job and going around and seeing all the critical projects. So we get to see all the hard problems, and sometimes we get to see the most forward problems in order to help solve them, which is a pretty fun place to be. So I'm really encouraged where we are. I appreciate the DoD CIO team for everything that they're putting in place to help enable us and so that we can rock and roll. And then really get these.
Kick us, right? Is the,
no, help.
Oh,
collaborate.
Sorry. Okay.
Collaborate. So I've really appreciated all the collaboration. I mean, as all jokes aside, it's been fun, and so that's how we ended up here today. And I just can see the next year just taking off even further with the types of problems we're getting, where we're seeing legacy shut down and we're seeing modernization take off is really, really great. And we're even seeing that. And so all those little pieces and little pockets of gold are, not to get too caught up in black and gold for the Army, but it's a pretty great place to be. And I'm seeing that take off, low-code, no-code take off, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll have significantly less legacy systems. That would be great.
Okay, new metric.
New metric, yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, we could come up with so many fun statistics. This would be a good challenge.
Ben, Lauren, thank you for coming out today and sharing what's going on in the Army. I will tell any vendors out there, I have no money. They have all the money, so you want to talk to them afterwards. But thank you all, and we'll be around if there's any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.